Today's mix might just have you seeing red, but in a good way. Today, we're taking a look at this beauty. This is Daniel Smith's Alizarin Crimson. Now, this one, again, came from the viewer comments, and thank you so much for all of your wonderful comments as you were watching. I greatly appreciate them. I do try to read every single one and reply as much as I can. Alizarin Crimson. This is an interesting one, and you might be thinking, Angela, why the heck would we mix Alizarin Crimson? It is available in so many ways. But I'm going to share with you why this one might be an important one that you're going to want to know how to mix. Alizarin Crimson, PR 83. This one is thanks to one of our wonderful viewers at #1 Mule Kicker, who left me a comment, and it says PB 83 there, but it actually, that was just a typo. They meant PR 83, as you can see if you look on in that comment, as they're talking about the quinacridone red, rose or red or scarlet. And the question was, if it can be used, PR 83, safely in mixes without disappearing or fading. And the answer is no, it cannot. If you use this in a mix, say we mixed it up with a PB29, an ultramarine blue, or even a PB15, a phthalo blue, and we made like a purple. Over time, that purple is going to return to blue. It's just the nature of the beast. Our poor little fugitive.
Ladies and gentlemen, our fugitive has been on the run for 90 minutes. Fugitive's name is
Alizarin Crimson. Just doesn't stick around for the longevity. It is always on the run. So, you might be thinking, well, Angela, other brands make permanent Alizarin Crimson. It's a color name, correct? It is a color name. Daniel Smith has one. It is permanent Alizarin Crimson. And you know what? This one, and we're going to talk about this one, even says its lightfast is 1. However, the pigments that are in this are PR 177, PV 19, and PR 149. We're going to talk about why that's important and why it leaves me questioning this one. Core has a permanent Alizarin Crimson. This one, let me grab those swatches to share with you. I definitely do some research when we start talking about these mixes. And permanent Alizarin Crimson, thank you so much for your comment, because that really got me looking at it, because I have also thought, gosh, I just wish that was permanent. Why can't we get a actual lightfast permanent version? That's what we're going to attempt to mix today. So Core's version is PR 177, and they say that that is a lightfast rating of only 2. So it's not excellent. Remember the permanent Alizarin Crimson over here that I said one of the pigments, PR 177? That's this guy. On its own, Core has said that is a lightfast rating of 2. Do I trust that this PR 177 is actually lightfast? It also includes PR 149. And for Daniel Smith, PR 149, that can be found on its own if you have Perline Scarlet. So Perline Scarlet is PR 149. And according to Daniel Smith's list of pigments and properties, PR 149 is only very good. It is not excellent lightfast. So if that one's not excellent, now they do say that their anthracenoid red is PR 177, and that is excellent. So they're saying their version is excellent, where Core says theirs is only a lightfast of good. Now this has happened from brand to brand. For example, Daniel Smith's Carbazole Violet, that one, PV 23. It is lightfast in Daniel Smith. Independent tests have shown that, but in other brands, it can be fugitive. So it is very possible that their PR177 is in fact lightfast, but their PR149 on its own says that it's only a lightfast rating of 2. It's only very good. So is this actually a lightfast rating of 1? I don't know. I can't say for sure because I haven't done my own independent test on it. So that's what ruled this out as one for me to mix. So as I'm mixing these pigments that I've chosen, and you're like, why didn't you just use what Daniel Smith does in their permanent alizarin crimson? It is because that PR149 on its own from Daniel Smith is not an excellent rating. So if you were to mix those together, I can't say that that would be a lightfast version for you. So let's move right along. Winsor & Newton does have alizarin crimson, and it is a PR83. It's also fugitive. So here is the Daniel Smiths, and here is the Winsor & Newtons. They're pretty similar in their PR83s. Now, Da Vinci has their alizarin crimson quinacridone is lightfast, again, lightfast of 2, and this is a PV19. Another one of those scenarios where in some brands it's lightfast and in other brands they say it's not completely lightfast. This would be one of them. So I immediately ruled that out as a contender because while in its color alone does look very similar to the original alizarin crimson, it's still not excellent lightfast, and that's my goal. So M. Graham, I swatched PR209 by accident. That was M. Graham's Quin Red. It definitely is not even in the right shade family. And then also the Winsor & Newton Professional PR122. That is much too pink. The Daniel Smith's Quinacridone Rose PV19. That was much too pink. This is lightfast 1. So that is excellent. You can definitely use that as a permanent red. However, the one that I chose to bring into the mix, let's talk about Daniel Smith's Pyrrole Crimson. Now, Daniel Smith's Pyrrole Crimson, PR264, on its own is lightfast. And if you look here, they are really very similar. So, okay, I'd be saying, again, Angela, so if they're very similar, why the heck do I need to make a mix and use multiple colors? The answer is you don't. If these are close enough for you, and this is what you like for your replacement for the original alizarin crimson PR83, that's perfect. Go for it. I will swatch them side by side and show you just how close they are when you see them like right up next to each other. So we will do that in a moment. Then I looked at the Daniel Smith Quinacridone Red, the PV19. This is also a lightfast of 1, so it is excellent. When I look here, again, very similar, but slightly off. So we'll look at those again, side by side, and you'll see. And then I brought something else into the mix, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Here, we're looking at Daniel Smith's Permanent Alizarin Crimson, right? So this one. Yeah, it does. I put it here and here. Here, so you could see it closer to the original. Here is Winsor & Newton's original. So you can kind of see there. They are very similar. So if you don't mind something that maybe you'd have to do testing on this because I don't know that I trust the PR149. Is it lightfast? If their own version of this pigment on its own is not, I would question whether or not that can affect the overall lightfast of these together. So again, I have not done testing. I cannot speak to that, but that is why I diverted from this. And we will not be using PR149 to mix our color today. There are our colors. I have pulled out the Daniel Smith's Pyrrole Crimson and the Daniel Smith's Quinacridone Red. If your version of PR264 and your Quinacridone Red version of PV19 looks similar to these, you can absolutely, and I encourage you to try to mix them together in a brand that you have. For my mix, we already know that we are going to do the Pyrrole Crimson. And that is this one right here. which re-wets beautifully. Look at that, just kind of off it goes. So this is the Pyrrole Crimson. I'm just going to let that kind of pull out and get a little lighter. Okay. We will put this on a separate paper side by side so you can see how the two go together. Next up, we have our Quin Red, PV19. Oh, I forgot to put water down. That's all right. It's fine. All right, there's our Quin Red. Looking at the tones that I get through here, I felt that each one of these was important. They definitely played a role. I tried these two together, and it wasn't quite there. It was like almost there, but not quite. If you're looking for information about pigments, a great resource that I can direct you to is handprint.com. I'm going to put a link in the description below to get you specifically to where you can look at information about PR83, Alizarin Crimson. Now, Handprint says that for a 1-to-1 substitution that you could consider PR176, PR177. We already talked about that being excellent lightfast in Daniel Smith, but not in, say, Core. So definitely check your brand to find out what its lightfast rating is if you have PR177 in your collection. They also had said PR176. Now, if you're a Daniel Smith user, PR176, that's Carmine. It is a beautiful cool red, which I think Alizarin Crimson, I think cool red. And it's PR176. It's only very good. So it is not excellent. So again, that's why it was ruled out for my choices of what we could use to create an actual lightfast version that looks almost identical to Alizarin Crimson. Now, PR264, that was my choice because PR264, it is lightfast, and it does already look so very similar to the original. But you can see here, it's just a little bit darker. If we want to get something that looks almost exact, we needed to kind of lighten it up. And that's where PV19 comes in. And they also said that some varieties of the dark reddish PV19 are possible alternatives to try. And this on its own, I feel, even though it is the reddest version of the PV19, it's still a little too pink. It's not quite what we see in Alizarin Crimson on its own. Again, the goal is to look just like the PR83 original. They also mention PR122 Quin Magenta and PV19 Quinacridone Rose as substitutions for mixes. So if you were wanting to mix in Alizarin Crimson with something else, that maybe you could substitute one of those. But I don't think it's going to give you an exact look for what you're going for if you wanted to use regular Alizarin Crimson, because here we see there's PR122 Quinacridone Magenta. And as far as Quinacridone Rose, that would be over here. And you see it's still very much pink leaning versus what this looks like. So again, I rule those out. But there's one other thing that they suggest, and that was for PR179, Perline Maroon. Now, that's what we're going to use. But let me show you. I don't think on its own as a substitute in a mix for Alizarin Crimson, I don't think this is going to do it for you either on its own. Because this is the Winsor & Newton PR179, which is called Perline Maroon. I wanted to use Daniel Smith's version, but I thought I had it. I couldn't find it. So if you look at this, that is quite different than this. If I wanted something to substitute in for this in a mix of all of these colors, the one that I personally would reach for as a single color choice would be the Daniel Smith PR264 Pyrrole Crimson. I'm going to swatch those for you side by side right now so you can see just how these look as a substitution on their own. Then we will create our mix. And then I have one more bonus mix for you because of another comment that was left on our previous mix video. Okay, just going to kind of set this off to the side. I will zoom out just a little bit so that you can see everything. Put it right here in the center. This is going to be our original Fugitive I will disappear on you. I've got some right here on my palette. Alizarin Crimson. This is PR83. It is beautiful. I can certainly see why a lot of people who love to paint florals would love to use this color. It's gorgeous. Look at that. Look at it take off and go. How beautiful is that? So there we have our original PR83 Alizarin Crimson. Now I'm going to swatch for you the Pyro Crimson right next door so you can see just how close and just how far away they are. As close as I can, hopefully not touching. Again, takes off just like the original did. There we go. I will label these so that we can't forget which is which. Let's go ahead and continue with our PV19. Again, we're going to go right next door. I think these bigger swatches and being side by side really will help you see why. And that one, not as fast of a mover. You see that pink undertone just wanting to come out in the lighter areas as it moves out in that wash. This is going to help us with this light part out here. Okay, so again, not the same. And our last one was our PR179, which was our Perline Maroon. Again, I am using Winsor & Newton. I apologize. I did think I had it in Daniel Smith, but maybe I don't. It is a color that I really like. I thought it was on my palette, but my Daniel Smith palette is in so many different places right now because it needs to be updated into a larger palette so I can get my collection sorted and together. That's a video. Let me know in the comments if that's one that you're wanting to see. And look at this. Look how dark that can be. That is not, in my opinion. It is, it is a red, but it is a very earthy, almost brown. Right? I'm just like that kind of pull out so you can see. Now it's not, this is the bee inspired watercolor paper. Again, links to everything are below. It is not as granulating. I did swatch this on the, this was the Fluid 100. Now this says it's a cold press paper. This is 100% cotton, whereas this is cellulose. It says cold press, but this actually has a much smoother finish. And PR179, that was right here on that page. Okay, so there was our Quin Red, our Perline Crimson, and here is the original PR83. So you can see them on the cotton paper. See how close they are? Very close. If that closeness is good enough for you, all you need is the Daniel Smith PR264 Pyro Crimson. It is the one, at least from my collection, that was the closest match on its own. So, but we're going to talk about how I went from here to here. Look at that mix. Look at how close those are when we bring these three colors together. And we're going to talk about this other stuff here in a moment. But these are a mixture of this, this, and this. So let's go ahead and mix those now and show you how we get here. I have just rotated my palette counterclockwise. This is the actual Daniel Smith Alizarin Crimson. We're going to take a spot right here. This was my mix. No, that was a different one. This was my mix with these three colors right here from when I did the practicing prior to showing you the video to, make sure that I was getting the mix the way I wanted it. So what we need is our Pyro Crimson, our PR264. Look at that. Just beautiful. And if we look again, they are so similar. If I add a little bit more water to that, right? And then I add a little bit more water to this and kind of bring it over close to it. You see how similar they are even on the palette? It's already quite close. And I'm just going to drop this in here just kind of as a, right? If we darken that up, it is closer with a couple washes of this, but still not quite. Okay, so to our PR264, we are going to bring in some of our PV19 that is quinacridone rose. It has to be the very reddish version of a PV19. And you see that we're going to bring that in together. And look how that definitely changes that overall look. I'm starting to get closer to here, but there's still something that will be missing when I put those down. So if I were to swatch those, and I'm just going to do it right here kind of in the middle, okay? Because we're going to do the overall swatch after. That swatch still, we add a little bit more of the pigment in there. It's still just a little, they look so similar, but it's still just a little bit more pink versus the crimson, the PR83. If I bring in the PR179, I don't need a lot of this one. Okay, and now I am going to put a little bit more of the original on my palette because this is kind of a diluted wash. I want to make sure that I'm seeing this correctly. So just a moment. When I look at this, there is this darker, I can see it. It looks sort of like that PR179 within that wash. Okay, and that is what I am going for. I needed my PR179 to change this just enough. And now I am so very close to that. All right, I'm going to just grab some water. We're going to put it right here and we're going to give this a try. So I know I put clean water down the first time, but all right, now I'm going to grab my mixture. I'm going to put that right into that, just like I did up here in here, the wet wash. That PR179 just shifts that hue so that it looks almost identical to the PR83. And again, I'm gonna let these dry. I'll bring them back for you to look. And now that I've used all of that up, I will show you and mix it one more time because we have to put it on our card, of course. These cards I keep in a little box so that I can always refer back and know what wonderful colors have we mixed. So we have our PR264, right, with our PB19. You'll see that color shifts, and it may be hard. It is subtle, but you will see that it's going to shift ever so slightly. But that is certainly not enough. We have to bring in our PR179. And that is what tends to get us there. Just add a little bit more on this side. We'll see. This may be darker. I'm going to put it up here. I might have a little bit too much of the PR179 in that, comparing those two. So before I put it on my swatch card, I'm just going to slightly adjust just a touch more of our PR264, a touch more of our PB19. And you know what? We're going to be brave and go for it and just put this on our swatch card. And let's see just how close we've come. I'll rinse that brush out so I can pull it, tapping it off on my sponge. I'm going to kind of pull that color out like I did in the first one. I find that this, at first, I should have just left it alone. Leave it alone. I find that when I first put down the color, it definitely looks redder. My goodness. See, I said leave it alone. I didn't leave it alone, did I? Do you guys do that? Clearly I do all the time. I was just trying to get it so that the value is going to be similar to that of the one below it when it dries, so that you can have a better, a better look at the two together. But I do think that we are pretty much right there. We're just going to leave it. We're just going to leave it. I will let those dry. It definitely has a color shift where it goes from looking like quite red to almost like it's a duller, and it starts to lean more towards the PR179. So these have to dry. And if we look here at this mix already, this one, it's very wet, but as this dries, I think you're going to see that these two, they look pretty similar. I definitely got, do you guys look at that and go, don't touch it? I do. I just, it was much darker, and I want when this dries for it to look similar in value. Because that makes it hard too. If you've got a darker value and you're trying to compare them, right? Are they the same? Well, if the value is darker, they might not look the same, but at the same value, they could very well be so, if that makes sense. Okay. So there's that. That is our mix. You're going to have to let me know in the comments. Is this one that you want to try? Because this is absolutely going to be a convenience mixture for Alizarin Crimson that will, in fact, unlike some others that say permanent Alizarin Crimson and yet their lightfast rating is only very good at best. This is going to be an excellent lightfast rating. Every one of these pigments is rated with an excellent lightfast rating. So when we put them all together, this is going to be your Alizarin Crimson that should be lightfast and that you can use in place of the original. And all of the colors are lightfast, and it pretty much matches perfectly. I see I have a little bit more pigment here, but when I look here where the values start to get the same, they are looking identical. I really think that is the way to go if you want to mix your own permanent Alizarin, permanent Alizarin Crimson and have it actually be truly permanent. But we're not done. I also had this comment. Thank you so much at Art and Diamonds with Eskies for leaving us a comment. She says, or he, I don't want to make assumptions. I would love to see an Alizarin Crimson hue that actually granulates a little bit. And I thought, I wonder if we can do that for you. So here is our mix of Alizarin Crimson. We're going to take one more look at it when everything is nice and dry so you can really see and compare. Let's talk about, and of course I pushed a bloom when I added like another wash there. It is what it is. But let's talk about, can you make this granulate, and a couple ways that you might do so. You might remember on this sheet here, I was looking at, this was the PR179 because I wanted to see, well, does that actually kind of granulate? And it doesn't say it was a granulating mix, the Perline Maroon, but on my Bee Inspired paper, I am actually seeing a little bit of granulation there. If we look at this mix card, we're actually seeing a little bit of granulation there. Again, this is cold press, and this is a cellulose paper. If we look at it on the cold press Fluid 100, again, this has a texture that I don't think is so much cold press. It's very, very smooth, almost like hot press. This is the smoothest cold press texture paper that I have. So, but if we look at it here, you see that? Little bit even on that. So the PR179 might give just what you're looking for on its own. However, oh, this was PB25, excuse me. This was PBR25. That's what that one was, because I wanted to take a peek at how would that granulate on the different papers. So I used that as a potential because it was kind of similar to PR179. Not quite. And then the actual PR233, which that one, this is Daniel Smith. That was coming back multiple times to really build up the value. And this is Michael Harding's version of PR233. And if you're not familiar, it's one of my favorites. PR233 is Potter's Pink. So for a bonus mix for you, I decided to use the PR264, the PV19, and instead of PR179, I brought in Potter's Pink. So where I put the 179 in here, I put Potter's Pink in. That's this one right here. So you can see on the palette, now there's some separation as it dried. I can see some of the Potter's Pink up in the surface here. But even on the palette already with the 179, can you guys see, will it focus for me? There is some separation and granulating actually happening right within the palette itself. But look how close those colors are. That made me think that this might be an option. Potter's Pink is a low staining, so it's not going to be very strong in your mix. And I thought that might just be a good one that won't pull it too cool, if you would. And so I mixed that up. And we have the original here and the mixture with the Potter's Pink here. It is off slightly, but you can see right there, if those are close enough for you, and this is on the smooth paper, if those are close enough for you, that might be a way that you can get, and this here is also with the Potter's Pink. There's our original again. So you can see those original with the Potter's Pink. So just PR83. If that's something that you're like, oh, that might work, like there is Potter's Pink as well. Okay, so you are getting some granulation. You're also getting some darker values that come up in that granulation. That's the Potter's Pink. This one, though, is when I mixed it with the PBR 25. That's this guy. Look at the original and that one. Very similar as well. But, of course, I didn't stop there. I went one step further. It was actually on this page. These are the Potter's Pink, just Potter's Pink. So you see they're still a little pinkish. But this one that got much closer to this original, this one was the Potter's Pink with a touch of the PR 179. So that means you can do this mix, and we'll get a closer look at this now because it's pretty much, well, it's matte. It's not completely dry, but there is your mix and your original. These are so very, very close. And is that enough with very mild granulation in there for you? Only you can decide, right? Here it is on our card. If we look here in these mid values, the color is perfect. I just went a little dark here. I could darken this up. They would match as well. So our mix is there. Here's our mix. Let's add just a touch of Potter's Pink. And we're going to do a nice wet wash here, and I will show you, and maybe that's the granulation that you're looking for. I forgot to activate this ahead of time. Give me just a moment. Okay. All right, so our Potter's Pink, that guy. We're going to bring a little bit into our mix. Grabbing some more water, right? And now I'm going to do it right here. And I'm going to want a nice wet wash. Because remember, when you want granulation, just dipped in my water there and coming back. When you want granulation, you want a nice wet wash. If you want that granulation to kind of really shine, you're going to want a lovely wet wash. Okay. So we're just going to leave that there to do its thing. And because we don't have one close to compare, all right, we're going to take some of our original. We're going to put it right here. Again, nice wet wash so that they are the same. Or at least, no, as close as I can get them to the same. I actually really like it with the Potter's Pink mixed in. It doesn't change the hue that much. And of course, that would make it a 4-color mix. But if you want to add just a little extra granulation, that might be the answer. So, Art and Diamonds with Eskies, I hope that helped and that you'll give it a try. I'm going to let these dry. Is this mix enough to get our fugitive, Alizarin Crimson, out on parole? Maybe into some of your paintings where you won't have to worry about its permanence anymore. I don't know. For me, these colors are so close that, again, this is hard because this was slightly darker. This is a darker value than what I have right here. But when I look at where the values are the same, these look almost identical. Close enough? You guys let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear about it there. As always, if there is a color that stumps you or you would like to see a mix of, drop it in the comments. I have had quite a few suggested, some that I don't have a sample of. So if you happen to see one in the comments and you're like, oh, I'd love to see that too. If you see me say that I don't have a sample, but maybe that's something that you'd like to see done, you could even send me just a tiny piece of watercolor paper with, you know, something like this, a little tiny dot of the color. That's really all I need to be able to compare and do a mix. I do like to have the original because then I can let you all see it. We know it's there. If there's a color that you would like to see mixed, please drop it in the comments. I love inspiration for future mixes. Okay, our one with the granulation isn't quite dry yet. This one's, it's still a little wet up here, but I think when we look at this, you can see, I mean, look at that. Look at that red. Like, look right here and here. Like, this was a little, it's trying a little lighter. This is a little darker value, but even in the original, look at that. The original almost looks like it has a little bit of granulation on this paper. There certainly is some coming to the surface here. Sorry if I'm moving that too quickly for you. Can you see the granulation that's still happening up there where the wash is wet? So yeah, those, they are very similar. There's our mix. There's our original. Here it is again. Alizarin Crimson. Permanent Alizarin Crimson. That's not fugitive and is excellent lightfast. These three right here. And if you're feeling adventurous, put in a tiny bit of some Potter's Pink if you have it and see what you think. Let me know if you're going to give this one a try. I'm going to pop another video up right about there that you might like to watch next. Until next time, my friends, keep mixing, keep exploring with your supplies, and keep creating. And I will see you in a video real soon. Bye, guys.